Well, welcome to Living Beyond Limits and welcome home. Home here and home to yourself. And so I am Reverend Jennifer Spear, and we are a part of Centers for Spiritual Living. And I'm so glad that you've joined us here this morning to spend your morning together with each other and with us. And if you are new to us today, from the very bottom of our hearts to yours, we are so glad that you have joined us and that you're here with us today. Welcome. And so we'd like to start off our service today by reading the mission statement that's on the front of your bulletin. So I invite you to join me in that. We are a sanctuary where people can discover and reveal the presence of God within their own being and experience their oneness with all life. Through the realization of this inner presence of love and peace, we give way to the evolutionary impulse of the divine and become a beneficial presence in the world. That's exactly what's happening here at Living Beyond Limits, as we are each giving ourselves the opportunity to move back into that place within ourselves, in that stillness, in that quietness within, where we can touch not only our own spirits, our own souls, but the presence of the living spirit that expresses itself in and through and around and as everything. Sometimes when we're out in the world is bombarding us with things, and it takes kind of unplugging and moving in. And so we have created here this safe environment to explore and to be still and to be held in the love of spirit. And so what happens is, as we come to recognize that spirit is not only exactly where we are all the time, but is innate to our own beingness, is the very core essence of who we are, that means then that all of those qualities and characteristics of that living spirit already exist within us. That means love is already within us. Peace is already within us. The truth of who we are is wholeness and goodness. And as we come to recognize that that is really who and what we are, then when we go out into the world and are bombarded by all of those things, we can stay centered better. We can come from love or come from peace when that is not what we're receiving from the world. And as we do that, we act like ripples on the pond. The energy that we are coming from emanates out from us, and we become a beneficial presence through our words and through our actions, but also just through our consciousness, through our energy. And so I thank every single one of you for answering the call of your own spirit to be walking this path, to be bringing your spirit and that divine one into this world in a way that is good and in a way that is beneficial. Thank you for that. Well, happy Mother's Day, everybody. There were some kids at a school recently, and they were being asked questions about their mother for Mother's Day. And one of the little boys was asked, "Why did God give you your mother and not some other mother?" And he responded, "God knows that my mother likes me a lot more than other people's mothers." He was also asked, "What kind of little girl do you think your mom was?" "I don't know because I wasn't there, but my guess is pretty bossy." But actually, happy Mother's Day, and in celebration of Mother's Day, if you are a mother, will you please stand and let us acknowledge you? Thank you for the love and the care that you have given and that you have shared, for I know that you have made a difference in this world by giving that love and that care. And also, we want to honor all of those who treated us with a mother's love. Whether it was our birth mother or an adopted mother or an aunt or a sister or a neighbor, doesn't matter who it is, those people also have made a very large impact on us and are in part responsible for who we are today because of their love and their care. And so we honor them today also. And I also want to acknowledge at the same time that Mother's Day can be an emotionally complicated day for a lot of people. Because some people are experiencing a sense of loss because their mothers are no longer here. And some people are actually experiencing grief on this day because their mother was not the ideal mother that they wish they would have had, or perhaps was ideal part of the time and not at other times. But regardless of if your mother is still here with you today, and regardless of whether your mom was a great mom or not, we all contain within ourselves that archetypal mother and that love of a mother. It's innate within all of us. Whether you're a woman or a man, we all contain that love of a mother inside of us. It's an aspect of the divine feminine that lives within us, whether you're a man or a woman. It is the unconditional love of spirit showing up in form. Emily Cady, who was a Christian scientist and a unity writer, said, "God is love. We cannot see love nor grasp any comprehension of what love is except as love is clothed in form." All the love in the universe is God. The love between husband and wife, between parents and children, is just the least little bit of God as pushed forth through the visible into form and manifestation. A mother's love, so infinitely tender, so unfailing, is God's love only manifested in a greater degree by the mother. That love is the love of God. And so that archetypal mother is a principle, it's a presence that takes that form of a mother's love. And that love contains gentleness and encouragement. It is comforting and nurturing. It is patient and kind and gentle. It's unconditioned. It doesn't have any conditions. The only thing that makes me think of that unconditional love of a mother is a mother who has perhaps a son who's imprisoned for murdering, and she still loves him with all of her heart and holds him like she ever did. That's the love of a mother that I'm talking about, that unconditioned love. That love is the love that we wanted and that we needed as children. And so I'd like to read this little article to you. It says, "Children require a number of things from their primary caregivers in the first few years of life. Other than their obvious physical needs, they need hours of face-to-face contact. They need skin-to-skin contact. They need someone to make eye contact with them, to talk to them, and to snuggle their little bodies. These are not things that happen with, quote, quality time. They require quantity time." An interesting experiment was conducted many decades ago that set the stage for research on attachment, the bonding that happens between child and caregiver. Researchers tracked babies that were being raised in two very different environments. The first was a Catholic orphanage. The loving nuns who cared for the babies in the orphanage were well-intentioned and perceived their mission as a calling from God. They took in any abandoned and unwanted baby. The babies were fed and clothed and given a safe place to sleep. The second environment was a women's prison in New York City. The babies were born to women who were incarcerated, and the prison allowed the women to raise their children within the prison walls. These women were not paragons of intellectualism, nor did they function at high levels on the social ladder. The conditions in the prison were gray and cold, and anything but what you would expect as an ideal place to raise a baby. The fetal death rate of the two groups were compared, and to the researchers' surprise, the fetal mortality rate was higher among babies in the orphanage than in the prison. The reason became obvious. The nuns only had 2 hands each. Despite their intent to do well, they only had time to provide for the basic needs for the babies and their care. None of the children were neglected, but none of them had the required hours of rocking and cooing and eye contact that the babies in prison received. The prisoner mothers had nothing but time. They spent hours cuddling their children, talking to them, and loving them. The term that was coined for the babies who died in the orphanage was fetal failure to thrive. This study taught us that struggles and face-to-face time is just as important as the food babies consume. It validates years of research that propose the importance of parents investing in their early children's years. That love that those kids needed, that's the love we still want as adults today. We still want to be loved and to be encouraged, to be cared for, and to be supported, regardless of what our age is. And today, as adults, we also want to experience our own wholeness, our own enoughness, our own value, and our own goodness. All of those things, our enoughness and our wholeness and our value, comes from being loved. And so there are several problems, I think, sometimes that keep us from experiencing that kind of love. And one of them is when we think that kind of unconditional love, that support and that nurturing and that care has to come from outside of ourselves rather than from within. Or maybe the thing that keeps you from experiencing that kind of love today is because you didn't get that kind of love as a child, the kind that was comforting and supportive and kind. And in turn, then you don't know how to treat yourself that way today because it wasn't modeled for you as a child. Or maybe you didn't receive that kind of unconditional love, and so today you think you must not deserve it. Or perhaps you just don't think that loving yourself is important. But what I do know is that how we see ourselves and how we treat ourselves overflows into our relationships and into how we see other people and how we treat other people. Because it's the consciousness that we live in. It's the vantage point that we are looking from. So when we treat ourselves with the love of a mother, with encouragement and compassion and patience and kindness, in turn we become kinder and gentler and more loving with other people out there in the world. We become less judgmental because we're less judgmental with ourselves. We become more accepting of others because we are being more accepting of ourselves. And when we treat ourselves with that support and that tenderness, rather than harshness and criticism and giving ourselves a hard time, what happens also is we are more easily able to bring our own gifts forward in life. We are able to share of ourselves to a greater degree. We are able to share our love more fully because we feel safe, because we feel whole. I know that the way that I am today compared to the way that I was years ago, I am so much more generous of heart than I used to be. More connected with people that I don't even know and feel a connection and a care and a kindness and a love towards them. And I know that's because I feel safe in here. So I don't have to have a wall up. I don't have to protect myself from anything. And so when we come to the world like that, with that kind of care and kindness, then we win, and they win, and the whole world wins. When we act from that place, we are more fully expressed. Our spirit gets more fully expressed. And that living spirit, that infinite one, the divine presence, gets more fully expressed through us, by means of us. And as spiritual beings, I really believe that we have come here to express the fullness of who we are in this world. Our gifts and our talents and our passions and the things that we love, and who we are as spiritual beings. We have come here to share with the world our own inherent goodness and our own inherent beauty. We're here to bring that forward and share it with the world. And so the title of my talk today is Love's Embrace. And I'm talking about treating ourselves with that kind of unconditional love, with the love of a mother, that archetypal mother, that principle that is of God of unconditional love, and how that then enables us to be a beneficial presence and to bring goodness into the world. What happens also, there is a sense of freedom and a sense of self-worth that comes out of that loving ourselves, that enables us to bring the fullness of ourself to this world, that enables us to share our gifts and our talents with friends and with strangers and with loved ones and with the world. That is the thing that enables us to be a beneficial presence. And so when I was in my late 20s, I did therapy for years. And when I started out doing that therapy, I really started with doing inner child work. And it was really about learning to reparent myself and learning to love myself and take good care of myself, which meant things like making good choices for myself and being on my side and not giving myself a hard time. And it meant lots of different things. But it really changed me, and it made me become so much less rigid than I had been before that. Because I didn't have to protect myself from anything out there, and I didn't have to protect myself from myself. I became softer and kinder and more open and more open-hearted. In part, that's because I felt safe, because I had a sense of self-acceptance that I'd never had before, that I was able to treat myself with a grace that I'd never had before, which in turn allowed me to be more loving and graceful towards other people. Because one of the things that I learned in loving myself was that I didn't have to be perfect to be loved. And that means all those other people out there in the world also don't have to be perfect in order to be lovable or to be loved. That changes how we interact with the world. And so what if recognizing Mother's Day as this holiday was really just an invitation from your own spirit to be that ideal love, to be that ideal love of a mother for yourself? Whether you received that love or didn't receive that love, but what if it was just an invitation from your spirit to be that kind of love with yourself and with others and with the world? What if this national celebration of Mother's Day is really just an opportunity to let you witness the possibility of what love can look like as a possibility? And then to actuate that, then to own that love within you. And you know, it all starts at home. And so if it all starts at home, how then do you love yourself better than how you've been loving yourself? I have some suggestions. First, do you not agree with me that a mother's counsel is wise? A mother has wise counsel. And I think to me that means that being supportive from that place of wise counsel means supporting ourselves mentally, emotionally, and physically, supporting our mental and emotion and physical health. That's part of that wise counsel and support. So that then means to me, it means saying yes to the things that are in your highest interest and saying no to the things that are not in your highest interest. That is part of loving yourself. I think part of loving yourself means making wise choices for yourself. It means being there for yourself, listening to what you need and to what you want and to what's valuable and what's important. I think it means checking in with yourself when you're making a decision to make sure that you're making the right decision for you, not from some outside source or something that's telling you the decision to make, but that it's right for you. I think that includes making good choices about what you eat and who you spend time with and what you spend your time doing. I think loving yourself might look like taking yourself out of the angst of the world sometimes and just being quiet, getting outside, unplugging, being in nature. It might mean getting off your phone or off of Facebook or turning off the news. I think loving yourself includes having flexibility and allowing yourself to change your mind. I think it might mean fanning the flame of your faith and reminding yourself that life is on your side and that life is for you. It might mean when you're driving and you get mad at someone who is driving on the road because they're being a jerk, that instead of staying mad, that you actually breathe and maybe sing with the radio to help shift your energy so you don't have to stay in that energy. It might mean if you're mad at your neighbor or someone at work, that you actually forgive them and just let it go so you don't have to live in that angst and that anger. It might mean forgiving yourself for something so that you can move forward and create something better. And I know for sure it includes dropping your harsh criticism and judgment of yourself and giving yourself a hard time. For sure it includes that. A mother's love is not laissez-faire. A mother's love is not hands-off. A mother's love is active and purposeful. When a kid falls off their bike, the mom goes and kisses the scrape on their knee and puts a bandage on it and gives them a hug and tells them, "You're going to be okay." And then puts them back on the bike so that they can actually conquer what they're trying to learn, so that they can grow, so that they can actuate their potential, discover it, and give way to it. A mother puts a child back on their bike so they can experience who they are in potential coming to fruition. A mother's love supports us in becoming who we are in potential. Because when we discover that, and when we do that, we can bring our best selves to this world, and bring our best selves to life, and bring that forward to serve life, to serve this one life that is the life of God. Evan Hodkins in his book School of Alchemy, says, "The quality of God that gives of itself, nurtures life, and holds everything together is pure love, unconditional love." And the model we've been given for this way of loving and living is motherhood. The only thing that gives us a chance to love as God loves is the fact that the divine feminine is within all of us. This is the magic of motherhood, of the divine mother. It's a get out of jail free card. The feminine liberates us from prisons of feeling separate from one another, of living in fear and judgment. That's why we call it the divine feminine, divine motherhood. It is so complete, so nourishing. It can only be God loving through them. And so my invitation to you on this Mother's Day is to actuate that mother's love that lives inside of you for yourself. To actuate the divine mother within you and to shine that light into yourself and into life and into this world. And in turn, you will not be able to help but be a beneficial presence as you move through your life. And so blessings to every one of you on this path of self-discovery, of discovering the divine that lives within you, that is your very core essence, of discovering that and fanning that flame and living from that place and living in the benefit of knowing that. So blessings to all of you. And so I invite you to join me in an affirmative prayer. How good it is to recognize that omnipresence of God, Spirit, the infinite, the divine itself, the creator of all things, that life force, the universe, the all in all, that one whose center is everywhere and whose circumference is nowhere, is this very life of God. And it is that life that we are, each and every one of us, living. And it is the fullness of that presence of Spirit that lives within us. The fullness of the Spirit that leads us and guides us, that loves within us, loves us and loves through us, for it is the very energy of love. Everything has sprung forth out of this love and out of this givingness. For the nature of the divine is givingness, and it is good. And so as I recognize that that is the truth of Spirit, then that is also the truth of each one of us. For we are each incarnations of that Most High One. Incarnations of love itself. And so today we walk in that presence and with that presence and as that presence. We open our own hearts and our own minds, letting go of criticism and judgment and harshness, and opening ourselves to gentleness and kindness and compassion and love. And that we reflect that back to ourselves, knowing that that nurtures us and feeds us and guides us and buoys us. How good it is to be living this life of the divine here in this human incarnation. How good it is to be able to rest in spirit, to rest in ourselves, to be home here. And so today I recognize that as we live in this life of the divine, that we are home at all times. Home in spirit, home within ourselves, home in love. And so I speak this word not just about us in this room, but I speak this word about every person that is on this planet, knowing that the divine is right where they are also. and that it is unfolding itself in the life of every single person, fulfilling whatever need is there. For Spirit has already made the gift, and it is present, unfolding itself wherever there is an opening. And so I know that within this collective of humanity, there is an opening right now for peace and for resolutions and for coming together, for perfect solutions that serve the whole, and for love. And love is the guiding force. For love is greater than anything unlike itself. And love is the only power that there is. So today we lean into that power and we live that life from there. And so I release this prayer into the creative law of the universe, knowing that it is unfolding itself within us and all around us right now. How good it is to recognize that. And so I release this prayer in gratitude and invite you to join me in saying, and so it is. So I invite you to repeat after me. The love and light of Spirit are within me now.
The love and light of Spirit are within me now.
I own it and I share it.
I own it and I share it.
I am it.
I am it.
I am a beneficial presence.
I am a beneficial presence.
And so it is.
And so it is.